start recording and get started. So let me
Good to
know.
go.
Okay, perfect. So I'm very excited about this evening's event. This is our first event with the Azure Edge and Platform team. My name is Will Moss. I'm the CEO of HBCUconnect.com. I'm gonna give a introduction of myself and our relationship with Microsoft. But first things first, like I said, a little bit of housekeeping, and then I will go over the agenda for this evening's event. So for the housekeeping aspect, for those of you that are jumping on right now, please make sure that you are muted and you can actually turn your video off. The only video that will be on will be the video from the Microsoft team members so that we can focus on their presentation. So, but thank you guys for joining us and welcome. Let's go ahead and get started. So let me go quickly over this evening's agenda. First thing, like I said, I'm going to give a quick welcome, a little bit about myself, about HBCU Connect and our relationship with Microsoft and the opportunity for you. Then I'm going to introduce our event co-keynote speakers, which will be Randall Bozeman and Lou Godmer. So once Randall gives his keynote and Lou gives her keynote, then I'm going to introduce you all to the team members that have also volunteered their time to talk about their path and their journey to Microsoft, why Microsoft, and specifically the Azure Edge and platform team, why that is a great team to work for, some of the exciting work that they're doing and, type of work that they do so that you can have a better idea of not only the opportunities with Microsoft, but this particular team that is sponsoring this evening's event. So I'm going to introduce you to each team member so you know that who you're talking to, so that if you want to ask questions in the chat window during the event, you can absolutely ask questions in the chat. And I'm going to encourage the Microsoft presenters and team members that are on the call as well to keep an eye on the chat so that if you can answer a question that is asked from a candidate, we can keep the whole experience interactive, which I think is the value of doing a live event like this. So if you have questions, make sure to type those questions in the chat, but also make sure to keep yourself on mute and no need to turn on your video if you're a candidate. So like I said, we'll introduce each team member. You'll be able to ask questions in the chat to those team members after they present, and we'll keep the engagement going. Then I'll ask each of the Microsoft team members to turn on their video for a panel discussion where I have prepared some questions to help you get to know the Microsoft culture better. So I'll ask those questions to different team members that are with us this evening. We'll learn a little bit more about the culture. And then I'll also start picking up some of your questions from the live chat. So if you have questions that you'd like to direct to the team members while we're in our panel discussion, you can actually ask those questions in the chat, and then I'll read off those questions to the team members. So we'll have that panel discussion. We'll have a live Q&A, so you'll have a chance to engage. And then we'll talk about next steps so that you can potentially land an interview and potentially be hired from these events. So that takes me to the welcome and the opportunity for you, which I'm very, very excited about because this is not our first time doing an event with Microsoft. As a matter of fact, we've done lots of events with Microsoft over the last 7 or 8 years. Of course, originally when we started doing events with Microsoft, these events were physical events in different parts of the country because our intent was to help Microsoft recruit African American and Latinx talent wherever that talent was, all over the country. So we would look at the opportunities within Microsoft, and those opportunities might be in software engineering, they might be in program management, and different roles like that. We would find out where the talent is, host the event in that location, and invite folks in to attend the event. We provide food, drinks, present the Microsoft team, and then network, and then align candidates for interviews right after the event. So these were actual, events that were not just branding. These are events that were resulting in people getting interviews and getting hired in significant numbers from these events. Now, last year, COVID hit, unfortunately, around February and March, and we had several events planned in like Dallas and Atlanta and different parts of the country. And kudos to Microsoft, because instead of canceling those events, we decided to continue with those events, but just to host those events online. So Microsoft became not only the first company to bring HBCU Connect and their opportunities to, the African American and Latinx community through these physical events, but then they were the first to partner with us to do these series of events online, leveraging Microsoft Teams to host these events online and still align candidates for interviews and opportunities. So kudos to Microsoft for sticking with their commitment to hiring diverse candidates. Our partnership has been with Microsoft doing events every single year since that very first event. We've been doing events with different parts of Microsoft. So my point is to say that when Microsoft does these events, they have real opportunities. They have people standing by that are coordinating to host interviews, and they hope to make hires from these events. So this is a real opportunity. So take notes, ask questions, because this is your opportunity to get to know the team better. Your opportunity to ask questions and prepare for a potential life-changing offer. Because I've been hearing back from candidates, and they always have a smile on their face when they get an offer from Microsoft. So I'm super excited to be able to be sort of a middleman with HBCU Connect, making that connection to different talent. So I'm super excited about presenting a new team that we're working with for the first time on an event, the Azure Edge and Platform team. So with that being said, let me introduce our first keynote speaker, who is Randall Bozeman. And I'm super excited because Randall is also a HBCU graduate who went to Xavier. I believe we graduated around the same time frame. So I'm super excited, and I'll probably engage you, Randall, with some questions. But if you're ready, I will hand over the floor to you.
Sounds great. Sounds great. What's up, HBCUs? I looked through the list that Will sent, and there's quite a bit of representation. That always makes me proud. Just another proud moment for me. My youngest daughter is graduating from high school in the New Orleans area, and she's actually decided to enroll in Spelman. So second generation of, actually third generation, if you count my father, of HBCUs in the Bozeman family. So excited about that. You can see the sort of bio stuff. I won't necessarily bore you with that, but I did put together a few slides, and let me figure out how to share my screen.
Yeah, feel free to take over the presentation. Yeah.
Is that working?
Yes, sir. You're good.
All right, cool. So intro already happened. I'm with the Azure Edge and Platform team. We're a relatively new team, less than a year old, and you'll get to learn more about us. But I thought I'd start with, assuming my slides advance. Oh yeah, here we go. This is a placemat slide. It's a little busy, but I'm going to try to break it down. This is just a nice high-level overview of who we are as a company. So starting up top, you'll see, the Microsoft mission: empower every person, every organization on the planet to achieve more. We also believe, our worldview is that this entire planet is undergoing a digital transformation. And we believe that the intelligent cloud and intelligent edge is actually what's powering that transformation. And our products and services are meant to assist customers with that transformation. So when we think about our offerings, we think in terms of these 8 buckets or 8 solution areas, right? You got gaming, of course, Xbox and our xCloud, gaming service. Search, which obviously is Bing, but also search as a platform, across the Microsoft products, right? That technology is in a ton of our products: search in Windows, search in Office, and we also enable customers to plug our search technology into their offerings. Like Bing for Business, I think is what it's called, where you can actually have your intranet search powered by Bing, and you don't get ads, so that's pretty cool. We got Modern Life, which of course is consumer version of all of our products: Office, Windows, how you listen to music, how you communicate via email and other sort of video conferencing things, photos, etc. All the stuff you do at home and in your life with your family and stuff, right? And of course, we got Modern Work, which is Microsoft 365 or Office, Windows, Teams, SharePoint, LinkedIn, etc. Apps and infrastructure, which is all about Azure, developer division, all the compilers and stuff, plus GitHub. And then we got data and AI and also security. And we believe those need to be inherent to the platform. But we also deliver those capabilities for customers from a AI, data and AI perspective. Customers can utilize our tools to better learn and serve their customers. And we also have security capabilities, so customers can customize their level of digital security. Going down this slide, you see our culture, right? And we've gone through a big cultural transformation over the last few years. And we got 5 pillars of our culture, right? Growth mindset, which essentially means, we're perpetual learners. That will allow us to obsess over our customers, to be diverse and inclusive, and to operate as a single unit with shared goals and objectives, of course, which will enable us to actually make a difference, right? We believe anyone in the organization, not just people managers, also need to embody our leadership principles. And so the call to action there is really to create clarity, generate energy, and deliver success. And of course, our people managers need to be great models for their team, effective coaches, and also provide the right amount of care, for each employee. And then finally, at the foundation are our values that actually govern how we do work across teams, with our customers, and even with other companies. So that's that for all up Microsoft. Drilling in a bit to, come on, there we go. Azure E plus P, who we are, right? So again, you'll see the Microsoft mission. Then you'll see this thing called Cloud plus AI. So one of Satya's direct reports is Scott Guthrie. Excuse me. He's the head of our division, actually. And there you'll see, what we're all about there. And then our leaders in Azure Edge plus P work underneath Scott Guthrie. And you'll see, delivering edge solutions, operating systems, engineering systems. Azure Edge plus Platform seeks to accelerate growth for Azure, E&D, and Microsoft customers worldwide. And so drilling in a bit, you can sort of see our worldwide footprint, right? Over 4,000 employees, 25 countries, 6 continents, right? So this was really bringing together a bunch of, teams that were already in existence across the Microsoft company, and helping us to form that center of gravity around, like, pushing Azure and the edge. And then, of course, this one, I got this email last night from one of our chiefs of staff, right? So you'll see our 2 leaders, Roanne Sones, who's our CVP of Program Management, and Douglas Phillips, who's our Corporate Vice President of Engineering. I'm not going to read this, right? But if you look through this, you can reflect back on that first slide and those 8 solution areas, right? Just about every single one of those, Azure Edge plus Platform contributes in some manner, either a component or we're a major piece of helping to make sure that ships. So we got an amazing team. Like I say, we're relatively new. We're pushing boundaries, and we're delivering a ton of value for the company and for our customers. And I'm here with a bunch of my peers, with a few of my peers, I should say, to help drill in a bit more on each of the individual teams. So thanks.
So I can't let you go as a Xavier grad without digging into that story.
Yes.
Because I know a few other HBCU grads that work at Microsoft that have great things to say about the company. But can you talk about your journey? Because you're from New Orleans, right?
That's right.
And so you went to Xavier University. So how did you end up at Microsoft? Like, what was your path of your journey?
Man, it's a long story, so I'm gonna try to make it short. I had no intentions on being a computer science major. Xavier, everybody who goes to HBCUs, and probably other folks as well, know that Xavier is like a marquee school for the medical sciences, right? Like, we have year after year been #1 for placing African Americans in medical school. So that was going to be my major, right? Like, my dad had saved up money for me to go to med school, right? I got a little scholarship to Xavier. And then I had a life-changing event happen. The girl I was seeing actually got pregnant, and with my son. I mean, I had something to do with it, obviously, right? And so I just realized that I couldn't take 4 years of college and 4 years of medical school, right? And have it not, impact me in a way and impact my son in a way that kind of put us behind the curve, right, or behind the eight ball. So I was fortunate that my junior year, the governor of Louisiana at the time, Edwin Edwards, made it a mandate that in order to get a Louisiana high school diploma, you had to have a year of computer science. So all my friends and I were scrambling to change our curriculum, right? Dropping that second art class or that second gym class, right? Because you want to coast your senior year, right? To pick up this computer science class. And when I took that, man, I had an amazing teacher, and I just excelled in that class. So then when it became time so I still hadn't changed my major yet, right? Even though I knew I was expecting to be a father. But then when I got on campus, everybody, most people know Xavier's a Catholic school, right? So I went and spoke with the nuns and Sister Grace Mary, who was like the head of the med school department, pre-med department. She knew my father, my uncles, we have a rich Xavier history. And she was like, "What do you want, Bozeman?" I was like, "Well, I got to change my major." And she's like, "You don't think you can cut it?" And I was like, "Whoa, whoa." So I had to explain the story to her. And she was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I had a good conversation. I got this woman in my life who I call a second mother. If you don't have a second mother, you should get one, right? She was one of my best friends' biological mom. And prior to me telling my parents, I actually told her that I was about to be a father. And I was concerned about medical school and everything. So she helped me. We sat down one Saturday and looked through Xavier's course catalog and chose computer science because she was asking me all these great questions around like, what are you good at? What do you like? If it's not medicine, then what? And I was like, well, I just took this computer science class this year, and it was fun. And so that's how we decided on that major. And when I told Sister Grace Mary that story, she was like, all right, I support you. I'll let you off the hook, right? And she said to me, and I need to go back and see her because she's still around at the school. She said, well, you're probably not going to make as much money as a doctor, as a computer science versus a doctor. And she said, you probably also won't have as fulfilling as a job, right? Well, I'm not going to answer that, right? But I do think I have a little bit of discussion to have with her, right? So it was great, and I ended up I did 2 internships at IBM, and then 1 internship at Microsoft, and Microsoft was just the obvious choice after my '93, long time ago, summer of '93.
So did you have to do the internship in the Seattle area?
Yes, I did, and I swear they pulled the wool from underneath me, right? Because everybody kept telling me how great the summers were here, even because I was a December grad, so I interviewed in like this February timeframe or whatever, and super rainy, right? And everybody's like, but don't worry about it. The summers are great. Summer of '93 had to be the worst summer in Seattle on record, right? We got a week of sunshine, right? So I was like, whoa, talk about bait and switch, right? But then every summer after that has been pretty amazing. Maybe 1 or 2 here and there that weren't so great. But yeah, I was here, worked in a team called Profit.
Okay. And so are you still based in the Seattle area, or?
I am. I'm still based in the Seattle area. I frequent New Orleans I mean, 7 or 8 times a year. I'm there for about a week at a time. I still got a bunch of my family there. My youngest daughter is still there as well. So I go home a lot, and I think the job, especially, during this pandemic where everybody's virtual, I used to feel a little guilty about like being the only person to call into the meeting, right? Now everybody's calling in, right? So it's not that big of a deal.
So I got 2 more questions for you.
Go for it.
One, because I think this will, if I'm a candidate considering working at Microsoft, love to hear the story. But there's some candidates on the call. Some of them are, out just a couple of years out of college, but then other folks have been out for 10 plus years, right, in the workforce. Yep. So I would want to know, your career progression. So what are some of the roles that you had at Microsoft, and then that lead up to your current role? And then I'll ask my last question.
Go for it. Yeah, so I started out as an SDET, software developer, engineer, and test in the Word team, and I worked on. Bill Gates had sent out this infamous memo called the Internet Tidal Wave. Right? It was like, you could tell it was like, a couple of pots of coffee and like no sleep, and he just like boom sent out this prolific message. The nuts and bolts of the message was, the internet is here. if your product does not integrate into the internet, or the internet is not integrated into your product, I'm going to shut it down, right? Because there's no future for your product, right? And so all these, like, we used to have these business unit managers who were kind of like, general managers of a group. So all of these folks got in the room and started like discussion, and it was brainstorming. I'm a brand new employee around like, hey, how do we make the internet be a part of our product, right? So Word had this idea of like, well, if you use Word to create book reports, to create resumes, to create, diaries, et cetera, right? Why can't you use Word to create websites, right? This was prior to us purchasing Vermeer Technologies, which owned Front Page, which became into SharePoint Designer, right? So, so I worked on a feature that allowed us to read and write out HTML and CSS. So it was actually pretty fun, and we got the demo in front of Bill. It was called the Word Internet Assistant.
I remember that. So what do you do currently, and like what does your team look like?
Yeah, so currently I am a director, and to kind of answer the question you put forth initially, I was very clear, just for those who are just embarking on their career. I was very clear with my management team at upon hire, right? The first skip level I had with my manager, two above me, was like, hey, I want to be you one day. Like I said, and I was like, I got no time frame on this, right? I just know that's the goal I have, right? I want to be in that spot. I want to be able to make the decisions. I want to be able to run a team. I want to be, concerned about those things that help people grow, et cetera, right? And help the business grow. So I'm a director now, and I run a team of software engineers and data scientists. I have a faction of my team in Canada that actually builds a bunch of features, outward customer-facing features, right, inside of the Windows operating system. And then the bulk of my team in Redmond, and I got a few, stragglers who kind of work remotely. They build these data pipelines, right? And then I've got a bunch of data scientists who assist with analyzing the data. And that analysis is in the form of like the health of the products that we ship. It's also in the form of like business goals, like how we're doing with adoption and engagement, how we're doing with customer satisfaction, what sort of business opportunities they are, right? So we are a true data team, right? And we use that data and we showcase that data to our partner teams to help make decisions.
Excellent. So my last question before I hand the microphone to virtually to Lou. My last question is, what is it so you've been at Microsoft pretty much your entire career. What is it that you like most about working for Microsoft that has kept you there?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say the fact that the company has not been afraid to challenge itself and to question our core beliefs. A lot of times we've come back to what they are. We're like, no, we're sure this is what they are, right? But the fab been, several, exec retreats, and the execs really lean in and ask us, like, are we sure we want to do this? Is this still who we are? Is this our identity, right? I think Satya has amplified that with the whole growth mindset, initiative, that's really kind of powering our culture, right? To look forward and to think about like what we're doing now, what we could be doing, what we should stop doing. Because, inertia is real, right? And you look at the history of other companies, particularly in the tech space, right? And I won't name any companies, right? But everybody probably has some examples of companies that just kind of missed the boat with something, right? And we were counted out early on the internet, and boom, we kind of made that shift, right? We were also counted out with cloud computing, and here we are now, a strong number two in that space, right? Because we've learned how to, and Bill and Steve used to have this thing called embrace and extend, right? And I think that has been core to our culture, even though I haven't heard an exec say it in that way in a while, but right, it's like, look, stuff's coming at you. You can't control what's happening, right? Innovation pops up all around you. Let's embrace that and let's figure out how to extend our products such that they incorporate that new technology in the right way.
Excellent. So, hey, I want to thank you for being our first of two keynote speakers for the event. So for all of the candidates that just got done listening to the great keynote from Randall, if you have questions or you want to engage with Randall a little bit, please feel free to ask those questions in the chat. And then, Randall, I would encourage you to keep an eye on the chat in case some folks have some questions for you. So our next speaker,
thank you, Will.
Yes, thank you. So let's jump to our next keynote speaker. who is Lou Godimer. So Lou, I'm going to pin you so that we can focus on your video. I'll unpin Randall, and then welcome Lou Godimer, who is a principal software engineering manager in Azure Observability. So Lou, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your path to Microsoft.
Okay, I might have.
I think you just got muted maybe by accident.
Let me.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yay! All right, Teams is frozen. It wouldn't let me unmute myself. All right, cool. So yeah, I'm Lou. I resonated so much with Randall's story. I think, you know, the way that I would say.
Uh-oh. Looks like we may have lost Lou. So I'm not sure if there's technical difficulties. Hopefully, no one accidentally booted Lou from the meeting. But so Lou, if you jump back on, let us know. But just in case, how about I'll introduce Jeff if Lou, yeah.
I hate to get started because I know I can feel her coming back. I don't think
There she is. There she is. Okay.
There
cool.
she is.
Cool. I'm going to turn off my video as well, and I'm going to turn off incoming video just in case there's some network congestion happening.
Cool. So Lou, if you're ready, I think it's still on mute.
Okay, let's see. There we go. Hello. All right.
Hear you loud and clear.
Technical difficulties, folks, but I think we're back. So, yeah, so I think I was saying I resonated so much with Randall's story about kind of just changing tacks and not necessarily doing what you always plan to do. And I feel like my story has been, the nice way to put it is a very organic career growth. If I'm being honest, I would call it a series of happy accidents as well. So I started at Microsoft in the SDET role as well, same as Randall, as an intern. And I really wanted a dev internship, but I procrastinated and I applied super late and all the dev internships were gone. And so I landed a test internship, but I was still pretty happy with that. And I ended up really loving it. The whole focus on quality just turned out to be a great space for me. And so ever since then, I've been really focusing my entire career on the quality space. And nowadays, I think someone asked this question in the chat, do you still have the SDET test discipline? We don't. We have kind of a new incarnation of that that's called site reliability engineering. And so I lead a site reliability engineering team now in Azure Edge and Platform. And so that's been sort of the focus of my career has been on quality. And now we have the way to focus on quality over the years has changed. And the internet is the thing I think that really drove that change, where we don't box up, print out something onto a floppy disk and mail it to a customer, and it has to be perfect at that point because we don't have any opportunity to fix it anymore. And nowadays we ship new things to customers multiple times a day. And so the way that we focus on quality and the way that we do that has really changed. And that's where the SRE discipline comes into play. So I work on observability. Observability is part of Azure Edge and Platform. And we are, not only do we obviously focus on the quality of our own product, but we also are in some ways the quality platform for Microsoft. So pretty much any service at Microsoft that Microsoft builds uses our platform to monitor and understand the quality of their own system. And we also build the external facing quality product that Azure customers use to understand their own quality. And so that's what observability is. I think we're a pretty key part of enabling internal and external customers to build really successful products at Microsoft. And so, looking back at my career and what I call the happy accidents, starting off in that test program accidentally, and then moving through different phases, the critical thing for me has always been, I've always had fantastic leadership. My managers and also the senior folks around me have mentored me and helped me figure out what I want to do, because I never really know what I want to do, and I go try different things and go kind of figure it out in real time. And so that is I think the key at Microsoft is our great leadership, great mentorship, and our focus on the people. I think we really have a great focus on people, and even now in the COVID times, it's more visible than ever how we care for each other. We do the obvious stuff like flexible hours and meeting online and working from home, but it really goes a lot deeper than that. We try to figure out how to allow each individual to really excel in this environment, especially given whatever unique situation that they may be dealing with at this point in their lives. And so that's been my experience at Microsoft, is really enjoying that leadership excellence and the opportunity to go and figure things out in real time. I don't really feel the need to kind of plan ahead and have a 10-year plan. Just go with the flow and enjoy it. That's what I recommend.
So one follow-up question for you. What does your team look like? So you're a principal software engineering manager. What is tell us a little bit about your team, like how big is your team? What are some of the roles that people play on your team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my team has 15 engineers. Half of those engineers are in the SRE discipline that I was talking about, so that quality-focused discipline. And then the other half are devs, and they're building shared infrastructure for observability. So this is another kind of example of a case where my leadership really helped me to build this team. A few years ago, I thought, gosh, everyone is going and redoing the same thing. Every time we go build a service, we relearn this whole process from the ground up. We start completely over every time. And so we do make the same mistakes. And when we need to learn from those mistakes, we relearn the same lessons again and again and again. And so I worked with my leadership and I said, what if we had one team that was responsible for figuring out how to build and run a service, and keeping up to date with the changes in the industry and building this platform, keeping this platform modern, so that other teams can really focus on the business logic, focus on the features, focus on the customer. And they don't have to worry as much about security and compliance and reliability and that kind of stuff. And at that point, my leadership really helps me to say, they bought in. They were like, yes, let's build a team around this. Let's make this happen for me, because that was my passion, and they kind of bought into it. And it's been 2 years now. In that time period, my team has grown from a team of 4 to a team of 16 people. And so that's continued to be our focus, is on trying to cut out the red tape, or take care of the red tape, so that people can really focus on features.
Excellent. So got a couple of questions. So where are you from originally, and where do you work out of now? What location do you work out of now?
Yeah, so I'm from a lot of places. I moved around a lot as a kid. I went to high school in Ohio, And then I went to college at U of M, which is controversial to people. But yeah, with the big rivalry, big college rivalry there. So I went to college in Michigan. A lot of my family, I ended up getting married to a guy that I met in Michigan. So a lot of our family is still back there in Michigan and Ohio in the Midwest. But when I got the internship, I moved to Seattle, did my internship in Seattle, and then eventually came out here to live and work full time in Seattle as well. And now I live in a suburb of Seattle in Issaquah, and I've been in my house for 2 years now, so almost a year and a half getting there.
Cool.
So,
So last question for you. And I like to ask this question to all of the Microsoft team members. So what is it that you like most about working for Microsoft?
I like that I feel really empowered to bring my authentic self to the workplace. That's a kind of a catchphrase. We hear that a lot because we talk a lot about how do we empower people to do that, to bring their authentic self to the workplace. And so like what kind of a personal tidbit about me, I'm vegan. And I do kind of some volunteer projects within the company to work on, tracking vegan options that are available in cafes and tracking like animal product consumption that's used at Microsoft and doing all these different projects. And through that, met a lot of people who kind of share that with me. And I've always felt like very comfortable being open with people at work about that part of myself and other personal tidbits as well. So that's something I really enjoy.
Excellent. So let me thank you for being our second keynote this evening. So for all of the candidates that have questions for Lou, around what her team does or, what some of the opportunities might be, on her team and that kind of thing, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. And then Lou, I'll ask you to keep an eye on the chat and feel free to engage with the candidates that are here. So thanks. So now what I like to do is transition into sort of the meet the team. So let me introduce our next and first team member that who will later be on our panel as well. And that is Jeff Sigmund, who is the Principal Group Engineering Manager, Offensive Security Services. So Jeff, if you're ready.
Well, I was born ready. All right, so I believe I have one of the coolest teams at Microsoft. So I have a team of hackers, and these are ethical hackers that within Microsoft, we hack other teams at Microsoft. And the whole point of doing that is so that when the real bad people come knocking on Microsoft's door, which if you probably are not aware, every millisecond, Microsoft is attacked hundreds of times. And
Wow.
so my job and my team's job is to go around to teams like Xbox and teams like the store that sells you games, or the thing that generates Windows inside the company, or even M365 or things like that. What we do is we break into those systems and we show the engineering team the ways that we broke in, the ways that we maybe tricked them onto clicking a link in an email, or the ways that they left their passwords inside of a SharePoint site that we stole, and then we broke in using those passwords. So any number of ways. And I would say that I'm having the time of my life, and I have never had this smart of a team at Microsoft in my life. I've never worked with this caliber of people.
How big is your team?
It's 25 people. I have 20 in the United States and 5 in India, and I have 5 openings right now. So I'm going to paste my LinkedIn link in the chat, because I would love anybody who wants to connect about security in that domain. Please connect with me. I have 5 openings, so
cool.
I'd love to hear.
One other quick follow-up question. So when you said that your team hacks other Microsoft teams, so I imagine they either love you or some guys hate you, right?
So the way you're onto something, the way that I make my job collaborative, and my team takes this very seriously, is we consider it a partnership, not coming and finding your faults and then making fun of you. Because
Right.
if you do that, every engineer at Microsoft hangs up the phone.
Right.
Because we're all human beings and we don't like to be told we made mistakes.
Right.
So instead of that, it is a collaborative approach where we not only do we come in and hack you, but after we leave, I have a team called the Green Team that works for me. So they help you remediate all the problems we found. We will
Wow.
give you automation to fix. And
Nice.
then we will show you how do you never go down this path again, so that I can never come back at you and hack you again. So it helps create a collaborative relationship, not a, you're not good at your job,
Right.
because that's not the point of what I'm doing. Right.
No, I think that's awesome. I think that. So, how did you end up in the career that you're in, or the role that you're in? Because I noticed that you've had pretty much every role from an engineering perspective that exists at Microsoft. Can you talk a little bit about your path and?
Yeah.
And-
I was inspired by the people that came before me on how to tell this story, but I'll be brief because I know I don't have a ton of time. The openness of falling into a role at Microsoft is important. I heard other speakers say that. I didn't expect to end up in an offensive security team attacking people with ethical hackers. That's not something I planned for. It is one of these things that it excited me, and so I dove in and I took the risk. And it turns out this is an amazing career path that I really didn't even study or prepare myself for. But as soon as I tried it, it's the most fun I've ever had. And it's kind of the job that if you didn't get paid, you're still interested in it. And because I'm not in it for the paycheck. It's like, now that I'm a manager of these people, I'm trying to help them grow their value to themselves in Microsoft. And then when we get to present to the head of Xbox, we broke in and we stole all the games you have, and we didn't pay $1. And his eyes get real big. And then I was like, here's how you fix it. I feel like every single day my team is protecting Microsoft's value to the planet. And that keeps me energized, where I don't care about my paycheck. It's just kind of nice that I get paid, but it isn't extremely motivating. So anyway, hopefully that gives you sort of the semblance of the answer there.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious. I mean, to me, it sounds like you're managing a team of heroes. So for all those candidates out there that are motivated by that, and I think that's pretty awesome. So, what are some of the other roles that you've had,
Yeah,
within Microsoft?
You just said a key word from me growing up at Microsoft. So I started when I was 20 years old. You can do the math. I've quit Microsoft twice, and I quit because of culture. And when I'm asked why did I come back to Microsoft for a third time, I came back because of the culture. Our CEO, Satya Nadella, he is a genius on many levels. But the thing that sucked me back into Microsoft in 2018 is he's transforming the how you get work done at Microsoft, and the fact that, yes, we are a for-profit business, but that is not our number one motivator. Our motivator is what can we do for humans? And then how do you get it done in the company matters more than what you get done. So you have to process that for a second. I grew up under Bill Gates, where it was what you got done. What did you get done? And not how did you get it done? And so now the company is all about, are you helping others? Are you using the work of others and not reinventing the wheel? And these things are critical now to your success inside the company, and you will not get promoted if you are using the old mindset of just what you get done. So I'll tell you that you asked other people, if the culture continues like this, I won't leave, meaning it's very addictive to stay at a company that is making me grow as an individual and a better human, and rewards me for that kind of collaboration and not just what I get done. Anyway, hopefully that helps you. Yes, I've had every role, and I've been in test as well. Like the other presenters, I started very early on in test, and then I had to evolve my skills as test has kind of faded from the company, and so I've been through that journey as well.
So just one follow-up question, because I know you've got some openings on your team. What are some of the technologies that your team uses, and some of the skill sets that you look for, in candidates?
What's funny is I look for people that think differently. I want people that question when they hear, here's how the world works, or here's how software works. They go, I don't believe that. And they test it. And then they question it. So that type of thinking is what makes a hacker a hacker. If you just accept everything you hear and you don't question it, boy, is it really hard to hack something really well if that's your mindset. So it's the type of mind is that I'm interested in, is that I highlighted. Somebody that goes, I don't believe that's true until that is proven to me, and I'm going to see if I can get around that rule. That is the type of person that breaks into things, and when you're an ethical one of those people, you do it without the intent of destroying, and with the intent of helping. And so that's what I mean by ethical hacker. The technologies we work on: Azure, Windows, Linux, even Amazon products, because we, AWS. So cloud security or cloud engineering is very important. The knowledge of Windows and Linux itself is important on my team. But the mindset is something I can't teach you. So I am way more willing to have you not know Azure than your mindset not be right, if you follow my point there. Because it's very hard to teach the way you approach the world. I find it hard to teach. But technology is simple, because if you don't know Azure, I can send you to boot camp for 30 days and you'll come back and you'll know Azure. So that's not hard.
So I think your team is pretty cool and unique. So the example that you gave about the Xbox gaming, and was that a real true story?
Yes, we stole. I guess I'll say it. I probably won't get in trouble. We stole $4 million of game codes, right?
Oh, goodness.
And it was too easy. And so we showed the team that owns the game codes, like, did you think of all these ways into this system? And they were like, no, we did not. And so we have, the reason I'm willing to tell you that is because now that's impossible.
Right.
We have locked that thing in steel. So yeah, that it all comes down to, in one person's office, they have the idea, I bet I could do this on that system and they would never catch me. And from that idea comes, we used to, before COVID, get into a room on a whiteboard, and we would design, how might we break in without them ever detecting us? And then each operation has a minimum of 2 people. They watch each other, just to keep it on the up and up, that we don't do anything unethical or bad.
Right.
And then, yeah, that's how these operations start.
It almost sounds like a internal drama documentary of the exciting things that you guys do. No, I think that's super cool. One follow-up question, and I think you may have touched on it with regards to the reasons why you came back to Microsoft.
Yes.
And the culture. Is that what you would say is what you like most about working for Microsoft? Is that particular the culture shift?
Yeah, I've now, I resonated with Randall's story because I had kids and I became a different human being after having kids. And it became more of motivating me to help people with, how their minds work and how they troubleshoot, and how to become a better engineer by changing how you think, and then realizing what skills you have that are valuable that maybe you don't even realize. Those things now energize me more than my own personal heroics, to use your word. I used to be very motivated by being a hero, and I grew up at some point and it became uninteresting to me to become a hero. And what I like is producing heroes that are also humble. And that is highly motivating to me now. And if someone looks back and says, Jeff was one of the best managers I ever had, that is what, I intend to be my legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Is if I can create that, then I'm proud of what I did this lifetime. So yeah, that's how I feel about it.
So let me thank you, Jeff, for sharing your experience, sharing what your team does. I'm sure to your last point, there'll be some people that are interested in asking some questions. So for all the candidates out there that are tuned in thus far, please use the chat window within Teams to ask questions. You can ask questions. You can engage with Jeff and Lou and Randall that have already spoken, but we also have a couple more presenters. So with that, I'm going to say thanks, Jeff, but hang on for our panel discussion a little bit later. And I'm going to introduce our next speaker. So let me stop spotlighting Jeff. Let me move to our next slide and our next speaker. So our next speaker is Whaley McClanahan. So Whaley is a partner director of software engineering within the performance and productivity platform team. So Whaley, if you're ready.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, my name is Whaley McClanahan. I'm the partner director of we call the organization name called Performance and Productivity Platform. So what does my organization do? What does that mean? For my organization, we build software to help our customers' product to improve their performance, reliability, resilience, efficiency. As you guys all know, that's the most difficult piece to do. If you're a software engineer, you know build the future is not that difficult. But if you want to make your software highly performing, highly available, and also extremely efficiency and resilience, that's take effort. That's what we do. So we hire a lot of domain knowledge experts, and we want the machine do the work. It's not the people do the work. So what that mean? Machine do the work means our software will automatically detect your problem in that space, automatically root cause for you, tell you where is the problem, and even will suggest how to fix this problem. And next time we will predict this problem when you run. And the more things is we also help you, we call hold the bar, means after you fix this problem, you cannot regress, right? The regression is killing people. How many times we deploy one, fix one, introduce more problem, or fix one after 2 months, the problem come again. So we have that one. So we call machine do the work. In order to do that, except that you are super deep domain knowledge or you're super good on this one, we also do a huge amount machine learn, big data analytics, anomaly detection, predictions. So that's exactly match what I think Randall talked about called intelligent edge, intelligent cloud. The intelligent also our DNA in our product. That's all we do. So talk about who I am, where from. I'm from China originally. I come to US for my PhD program, but as a lot of people do, I dropped in the middle and come to industrial work. And I'm in Microsoft actually close to 3 years. This month, end of this month will be my 3 years. And not like other speakers, I move around the company pretty often. And previous job before Microsoft, I was at the AWS, and I'm managing AWS EC2 fleet, and also co-found a new product in the edge computing side called Greengrass. Currently still there. That started from me, just one person, and then I released it. Then I come to before that when I was at VMware, built their first vCloud. We call it private cloud. So in my career, I worked from, you can say, cloud. We call it client server software, web application software, software as service, SaaS software, platform as a service, PaaS software, and the IaaS software. So it's kind of, I have the full stack experience. That's me. And of course, just like Jeff said, I have many positions open across the, if you have machine learning, data analytics, kind of interest I have. If you have performance kind of domain, you want digging deeper, we have, and you have a resilience, especially we work on the chaos engineering. Chaos is the resilience. So we try to mess up your system, injecting the food, see whether your system can still survive. So you think about, because we mess up people's software, our software has to be highly robust, high quality, high available, high skill. Otherwise, you really mess up software for them, right?
So tell me, so with your experiences at different tech companies, what is it that brought you to Microsoft and like as an industry hire, right?
Yeah, so I think it's a twofold here. One is, of course, AWS, Microsoft, we exchange talent pretty often. Second one, just like Jeff Randall talk about and Ro talk about, Microsoft culture changes. And since Satya becomes CEO, a lot of good things talk about. And for me, of course, I hear too. Look at the Microsoft. We have at least 8 multiple billion-dollar business. And we grow very fast. My experience, when I joined Microsoft, I only managed over 35 people. And my boss told me, here's the space. We have problem. You go fix, I want to grow too. Because, as you want to grow, if our customer want to trust us, we have to improve our quality. And now how many I have? I have over 170 people. That's the growth space. Microsoft empower you to do the work. And also, if you do good work, they are not shy to give you more responsibility.
So you said your team now is roughly 170 people?
Yes.
And so what does that look like? So like as far as direct reports, and then I have a follow-up question related to the types of skills that folks on your team have.
So my team, the skill my team should have is, we are, of course, is a regular software engineer, but we have different kind of software engineer. One is in the more focus on data engineering side, because we do a big data analytics, machine learning, anomaly detection and prediction. So we hire data scientist, data engineer. And the software engineer side, we hire large scale distributed software development, software engineer. And also we hire, like you have domain knowledge in performance. You have domain knowledge in diagnosis, in the reliability side. And you know how to build your large scale system, right? How to make a system more robust. So we have all kinds of software engineer we have. And because we are building software, at the same time, we are also analyze the data. And so it's a range of, and in the chat, people ask, hey, you have to have the computer science degree? No. And I, even in my team, is super successful one person. He only have a high school degree. But he is kind of directly report to me, is I call the successor of the secret. He always can help me to envision new product to solve the problem. So that's Microsoft. That's how Microsoft become a great company, because we don't care about what degree you have. You come in, contribute, just like Jeff said, not just what you did, you also how you did. And as long as you have a bigger business impact, we are not shy to promote you, to give me more responsibility. If you said, no, I don't want to manage people, I want to be individual contribution, perfect, we have those rules. If you said, okay, my passion is managing people, yes, we also have.
So for you, what would you say, now that you've been with Microsoft for roughly 3 years, if you had to pick one thing that you like most about working at Microsoft, what would that one thing be?
I think one thing is about Microsoft is I would say, different company have different. I cannot say, hey, AWS is no good or what. They have their strength there too. But the Microsoft attract me most is, we care about the people. We really focus on how, right? We want to have a very healthy work environment. And the care, people cares is the key. Certain company is very demanding. They call bios for action. Oh, I want this one now. They don't care. You have some problem or something or not. But Microsoft is not. We really care about each other. We help each other. We build a success together, and leverage each other's work. Just like, I don't know who said that, Jeff maybe said, we are not going to really for sake of the reinvent something. So the collaboration is a bigger part here too.
Love that. So Wei-Li, I want to thank you for presenting your experience and your background. We'll bring you back for the panel discussion. And for the candidates that have questions for Whaley and maybe some details about the types of roles and opportunities she has on her team, feel free to ask those questions using the chat. And then Whaley, I would ask you to keep an eye on the chat in case you can answer any of those questions. Okay, so let me introduce our final team member before we go into our panel discussion and our Q&A. So our next team member, and let me turn off the spotlight. So our next team member that I'd like to introduce from the Azure Edge and Platform team is Chris Iverson, who is the Principal Development Manager on the Sigma Dev team. So Chris, if you're ready.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I sure can, yep.
Okay, it says my video isn't working, so let me try one more time here.
Okay, no problem. So I've got the slide up just in case, so.
All right, well, can you see me now? I can see myself on my screen, but
yeah,
I don't see it. Okay,
yep.
I'm Chris Iverson. I'm a principal software design engineer. Or actually a principal development manager at Microsoft. I manage a team of leads in a group called Sigma Dev. Sigma stands for Silicon Graphics Media and Audio. I'm actually working on printers. So let's see, I'm from Seattle, Washington. I've lived in the Pacific Northwest my entire life. For those of you who all want to work remotely and don't want to come to Seattle, I feel sorry for you because I think Seattle is really one of the nicest places in the world to work and live. I've raised a family here, and the summers are great, as Randall says, but I actually enjoy the rain. So for me, it's really the best of all worlds. Let's see, I've been at Microsoft for a very long time. I've been in a software development position for 25 years, and I started really right out of high school. And I guess if Will let me, I'll just continue with my story and say, I was a son of a father who worked for Boeing. And he had an opportunity to bring home a TRS-80 computer when I was really young. And that was very influential. I learned to program when I was about 7. And my father was a big support for me as I was growing up because he was into technology. And then by the time I got into high school, I developed these skills on my own. I ended up finding a mentor who worked at Microsoft. It was something that was arranged through my high school. And that mentor gave me free trial software like Visual Basic. And from there, I kind of self-studied and learned C and C++ on my own at home. And, my peer group that I went to school with had no idea what I was doing. Like made no sense to them. And I pretty much was able to use those mentorships that I built from people that were in the professional industry to develop those skills until I was offered a full-time job, actually my senior year in high school, which I had to turn down because I wanted to go to college. And I was able to turn that instead into a summer internship, which I did while I was in college for the years that I studied in school. I actually worked in the winters part-time as a contractor in the same teams that I was doing summer internships with. Let's see, I started in Microsoft Word, Word for Windows 2.0. In fact, my office mate at the time was working on Word for MS-DOS. So it was a pretty interesting time back then. Yeah, let's see. So I graduated from Pacific Lutheran University with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, and I took a full-time job as a developer at Microsoft. And like I said, I've been here 25 years since then. My current job is in Windows printing, or what we call Microsoft Print Technologies. And I had the opportunity just this last year to help start up a team called Universal Print, which I can talk about a little bit more. Universal Print is an Azure service that allows organizations to connect their printers to the cloud. And this is an example of the transformation that we're all going through across Microsoft and Edge and Platform to modernize some of these technologies that have been around for a long time.
So if I was to come work on your team, coincidentally, I have a software engineering background, but what are some of the skills and technologies that I would be using or deploying if I was a member of your team?
Yeah, I had put some comments in chat about this already. For the most part, all of our positions have like a set of required skills, and they're pretty general. We look for people with object-oriented programming experience. Obviously, you need to have some formal programming skill. And then we want people who are very good at problem solving. You know, the problem solving, the creativity. I liked some of the earlier discussion around like having a different perspective and being open-minded. Those are all very important. In fact, I'll just use Satya's statement and say, you know, it's about growth mindset. It's about being able to pick up technologies, look at them, see why they're important, and apply them to the problem that you're trying to solve. Those are the things we try to look for the most in interviews. It's not so much about knowing, you know, a specific attribute of C or C++ or demonstrating skill in C#. You know, we're not really looking so much for that skill. We're looking for that creative problem solving. The language is just the way that you express it.
I love that. So, most of the time we do events like this, we have, you know, lots of folks with software engineering backgrounds, but some folks, you know, it's Microsoft, which is one of the biggest tech companies in the world and in history. So they may be a little bit intimidated by the interview process. Can you speak to the interview process and some of the things, you know, just to piggyback on some of your points earlier? Do you do interviews, and then what are those interviews like, and any advice for candidates going through a Microsoft tech interview?
Yeah, that's great. I'd love to. So yeah, I'm definitely very involved in the interview process. My team, the Sigma team, has probably 20 open positions right now. And I've been involved both in like the intern program, because that was a place that I grew up with in the company. That's how I got in. And I do hundreds of interviews, right? So yeah, what do I look for when I get somebody that's like apprehensive or maybe intimidated by the interview process? You know, usually I focus on what skills they want to talk about that they bring to Microsoft. One of my favorite questions is, you know, let's say you got a job at Microsoft. What is it that you are bringing to the company that you think would help us, you know, achieve some success? Like, what is it that you're looking for when you come here? It's easy to think that, you know, Microsoft is here to help you because you want a job, right? But you know, don't think that way. Think about what is your talent? What is it that what is your angle that you want to bring to the company that you think we'd benefit from? And I think that would be a way to kind of first increase your confidence as you think about that interview, but also show why you're important to us.
So
I can give other tips if you want.
Yeah,
but
would love any tips.
Yes, there were some questions in the chat about, you know, particular programming languages, which I talked about. And, you know, I was mentioning that, you know, I've hired engineers in my team who came in and did their entire interview in Python. So interviews, it depends on the format of how your group wants to interview. But typically there's like four interviews that you go through that they're all different people, different engineers interviewing you. And they'll ask different questions. There's usually a technical part where you have to solve a problem using some sort of code. And, you know, the language often is very negotiable. Like if you want to solve the problem using Python, you're welcome to do that. It's more about your mindset, how you approach the problem. Do you understand the data structures and like what the options are and how do you think through it? It's not a black and white thing. I don't know an interviewer now that works in my group that has like a specific answer they're looking for. This is really about probing you to figure out you know, what your thought process is, how you approach problems. And then, you know, where do you ask for help? Do you get stuck? You know, are you able to kind of work through that on your own? Those are all important things. They're not about the language or the programming skill.
Excellent. So Chris, I want to thank you and, you know, welcome you to, if you need to, from a technical perspective, you know, turn the video off for our next segment. That's up to you. But we're going to go ahead and go into our panel discussion. But thank you, Chris, for that insight and your experience. As you guys just heard, Chris actually has event openings on his team as well. So for the other Microsoft panelists, we're going to go ahead and start our panel discussion. So if you'd like to turn on your video, I'll shoot a few questions that we can go through quickly, you know, sort of a Q&A. And then for the candidates, if you have a question that you would like for me to ask to the team members, can be a specific team member or to you know, sort of an open forum type of a question, ask those questions in the chat. And what I'll do is I'll keep an eye on the chat and let me turn the spotlighting off real quick. So I'll keep an eye on the chat to ask those questions as we do this panel discussion. So we've got about 20 minutes or a little less than 20 minutes. So definitely wanted to engage. So let me ask this this first panel question that I have to Randall, and that is, so this is an event that's focused on diverse candidates. We have a giant tech company like Microsoft. I think a common denominator in what I'm seeing is, people value the culture at Microsoft. People feel like they can be themselves at Microsoft. But Randall, from your background, being an African American, how do you feel about that as far as can you be yourself culturally speaking? And I would be curious, how have you seen, has that changed over the years from when you first started at Microsoft to how things are now? Or has it pretty much remained the same? So what would you say, as to can you be yourself culturally speaking at Microsoft?
That's an excellent question. The short answer is yes. The long answer is we're still learning. Like, this is a journey. Like I mean, all you gotta do is look at the photo of the first 10 employees, right? And then that shows you like what we look like, and then like culture trickles down, right? And so we've had this, like Jeff mentioned, Satya's done an amazing job with transforming our culture. And, a lot of that culture transformation started under Ballmer, right? But Satya took it to the next level and ratcheted it up and started making these public statements about like how serious he was about it, and started forcing the company to go through this training together, right? Because then when you see something that, I mean, let's be serious, right? Like we're engineers, so we like ones and zeros. Anything that strays away from that, we kind of get alligator arms and we don't want to talk about it. It's like, oh, that's sticky, touchy-feely stuff, right? Having those classes where we've got to share vocabulary, and now you can say to somebody like, you're not letting me be my authentic self, or you're not applying growth mindset, or you're not customer obsessed, or you're not being diverse. And now it means the same thing, or roughly the same thing to everybody, because we've all had the same training together, right? So it's a journey. And I can say when I first came here, I mean, boy, I'm from New Orleans. New Orleans was Chocolate City in 93 when I left, right? And coming to Seattle, it was almost the polar opposite of that, right? I would like to say that, Microsoft in Seattle has rubbed off on me a bit, and I've also done the same, right? I think the company has changed a bunch. I know I was active in a bunch of, conversations early on under Ballmer and Bill, right? With like sort of pushing the needle on diversity. And I think we are trying really hard. We're leaning in. It's refreshing, like I said, to see our execs leaning in and to see them really asking questions and like coming at it from the standpoint of where they're just really trying to understand and learn. And then you can actually, I'm using a metaphor, but you can actually see the light bulbs go off in their head like, oh, I didn't really think about that. I mean, I have great discussions with my boss, who's the same, Whaley and I work for the same guy. And man, we have amazing discussions about like, systemic racism and culture and how things, are benign. And you have to really like hold a magnifying glass to some of them to showcase it and really kind of dig deep and question and go, yeah, we probably shouldn't do that, or we should think differently about that. So it's been great, and it's a fun journey. It's a tough journey. I don't want to sugarcoat it, right? Like, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to keep learning. And that's the strength of Microsoft, I think.
Excellent. Thanks, Randall. So my next question is going to be for Lou. And like I said, I'm going to try to go around to everyone, and then I'll start picking some questions from the chat. But Lou, to piggyback on some of the advice that what was our last speaker was Chris. So piggyback on some of Chris's advice from a technical perspective for an interview, can you offer some advice on soft skills that Microsoft looks for when bringing in new talent?
Yeah, so I always tell my teammates when they're interviewing people to try to figure out if this is somebody you would like to work with, which seems kind of obvious, right? But it's looking for things like, can we have a productive conversation about something that maybe we disagree about? How can we, work together to come to a common understanding about something? Do you have an open mind? Are you willing to ask questions? Are you willing to maybe not be the expert in something, to admit that you don't know this and that you need some help with solving a question? When you don't know something and you learn something, are you able to and willing to apply that new knowledge as you're learning? So those are the kind of soft skills that we definitely looking for in every interview.
Excellent. So thank you, Lou. So like I said, I'm going to round robin. So my next rapid fire question is going to be for Jeff. So Jeff, looking at your, he's like locked and loaded. So looking at your, your background with the variety of roles that you've had. So I'm sure some candidates are thinking, well, I'm not quite sure where I want to end up if I do go to work at Microsoft. Maybe I'll have interest in different areas. So how easy or hard has it been to move around within Microsoft?
Okay. It is the easiest it's ever been since I joined in '97. And just to give you an example, you used to have an embarrassing conversation with your manager, like, I'm going to go interview. And then that means there could be some retribution for that, right? But I'm talking back in the 90s.
Right.
So now the entire culture is set up around to encourage you to move. And not that you want to take your team that you're working with now and abandon ship. That's not what I mean. What I mean by it is you have to each year question your growth as an individual at Microsoft. And you need to measure yourself. Am I growing that achieves happiness for me? And Microsoft says you need to move around sometimes to get that growth, because you can mentally plateau. Meaning I have figured out everything in this group I care to.
Yeah.
And they don't have anything for me that I want to know more. So I'd say that if you have an awesome manager, which I really hope you do when you come on board, that manager should encourage you. Do not be afraid to admit to me you need to leave and grow, because that's something that every time an employee tells me that, I'm like, awesome. Okay, what's the next step in your journey? How do I help you get that job?
Yep.
I know that person that's the hiring manager.
Mm-hmm.
How about I introduce you? This is the Microsoft we're in. I don't mind people leaving my team. It's no longer, managers are no longer punished with the idea that you lose some people and the talent moves around Microsoft. So I have to tell you, it's simple. And sometimes I recommend people get in the door at Microsoft and try out the job that you, let's say you interview for a job that you're like 50% passionate about. Try it out and get in the door and then move around. Like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
So
I love it, because that's what I would call real talk. So excellent. Thanks, Jeff. So let me shoot a question to Wei-Li. So Wei-Li, considering your background as well, I know we touched on this a little bit, when you presented your experiences, but I like to, point to some of the differences that you've seen now that you're working at Microsoft as compared to some of the other tech companies that you've worked at in the past. What are some of the differences now that you're working at Microsoft?
Mm-hmm. Hey, before I answer that one, I want to add a little bit to Jeff's internally move around the team.
Sure.
So for my team, because I have a bigger team, I actually have a rotation program. You know me? And if you don't like this team's, you can rotate to another one. So we have rotation program. You can sign up internally rotated. Another one is more is not just a rotation. So if you say, hey, when you just hired, you come in, we give you 1 to 2 months. You look around in my team, which one you want to work for. It's not that, hey, you interview for that job. You come in, you can move around in my team too. Because during the interview, what do you do? After 2 months, you will know, oh, my real passion actually in this area. So I just want to add more. That's how good about Microsoft, okay? Then I talk about what's the difference, about the Microsoft and other company. Again, I love Microsoft currently, and since I joined, we call the value conversation. And this is a top down, bottom up. It's not that we just talk, it's a piece of paper. We do deliver. And I think people still remember, we go through 3 months, deliver value conversation talk. Let's talk about, as a manager, you talk about care, coach, mentoring, right? We lead by example. We want the bigger things that we empower you. We want to get best from you. It's not like a push you. It's not. If you don't like it, you don't have passion, you're not productive. So we all talk about the productivity. Productivity is not just that your software has to be productivity. Person, people, How you can get a productivity from you? You have to love that job. In the morning when you get up, say, hey, I love my job. You cannot say in the morning, I just don't want to go to work. That's something wrong. That's I love Jeff talk about. As a manager, we care about that. We want your best from you. If this team's job is not interesting you, we will help you find a good one. That's why there's a rotation program. We want to internally and transfer for you. But our goal is hopefully you are good. We don't want you to leave Microsoft. So internally transfer is good. And this, I move around the several companies I did not get from other companies. So that's actually really I like it. As I said, we are care about the people. We more like it's a bigger family kind of way.
Love it.
So work here is happy.
Thank you, Wei Li. So I'm going to shoot one more of my questions to Chris, and then I'm going to ask a couple of questions from the chat. But for the Microsoft team members, if you guys want to keep an eye on the chat in the meantime to answer some of the questions that are coming through, that would be great, because I do see a good amount of questions coming through in the chat. So Chris, I'm going to ask you sort of a current events question. So being a software engineer, COVID-19 hit. Microsoft, like our first event was with the Microsoft Teams group that was hiring, and I know they saw a big uptick in usage within Microsoft Teams, and they were hiring. So it was a great conversation about sort of a current events thing. So are there any things that your team has done, or have you seen any changes in the way that your team works, post COVID-19?
Yeah, I feel like this is a really easy question, but let me tell you a brief story. So, right at the beginning of the pandemic, my team was trying to launch a new Azure service, a universal print that I mentioned earlier. And we were really worried, right, that everyone's leaving work and going home, and that corporate printing would stop, and then we would have a really tough time. And it did, actually. For a couple of months, printing did drop. It was noticeable across the industry, but it came back really quickly. And what we've found is that companies now were scrambling to move to the cloud because it enabled work from home scenarios, and they were already looking at that opportunity even before the pandemic, right? So across all of Microsoft and Azure, we focused the entire team at helping customers adapt. Teams is one great example, right? Of course. My universal print service just recently launched about a month ago. We have about 2,000 organizations already using this thing, and it was like the right thing at the right time. Now, I'm not trying to say, pandemic was a great thing. It isn't. It's a horrible situation worldwide. I feel depressed about it. I'm sure you all do. But we're seeing that Microsoft was able to recognize the opportunity to use our technology to help our customers and the employees adapt to the situation. I think ultimately it's made us all very successful.
Love it. So I always try to mix sort of a current events. So thanks, Chris, for that answer. So this next question, and I'm going. This was the first question that actually came through once we opened up the panel discussion. This question is from Janine, and it's around diversity at Microsoft. So I'm going to ask one of our panelists to just volunteer. So if you guys can think of maybe a good answer for this, feel free to sort of unmute yourself and answer. But the question was, what are some of the initiatives your teams have done in the past year or so to drive, more around diversity and inclusion, and have any of those initiatives helped with understanding customer needs better? So any diversity and inclusion initiatives and how those might have tied into customer needs. So would love to hear a sort of an example that anyone can think of. And I can give one, and maybe someone could take this as an example. And so mine would be for Microsoft, that example I gave at the beginning, where Microsoft, we had physical events, COVID hit, and instead of canceling those events, Microsoft saw the importance of that they still have to hire people and they still want diversity. So they continue to do diversity recruitment outreach, and they continue to hire. So Jesse can probably speak to this a little bit more about, how much success we've been having as far as the hiring numbers, but people are getting hired from these events. So I imagine that, that diversity, that growth in diversity, not only over the last year, but probably over the years within Microsoft, has translated into, that diversity helping to create better products for their customers.
I can give you, Will, just a very simple example that's very real for me. Okay, it's very tempting. Let me just take the example of diversity of mindset.
Yep.
So if you hire people that know the same things as you, you get a group think going where everyone wants to solve the problem the same way.
Yep.
So I represent 3 businesses at Microsoft. We secure the factories in China for the Surface team that makes the Xboxes and the Surface. I secure the gaming division, and then I secure Azure Edge and Platform that you're talking to today. So if I hire people that only know Azure,
Yep.
I can only secure Azure. If I don't hire anyone that knows hardware and how factories work, and I don't hire anyone that knows the gaming division, those divisions, when I talk like I'm in Azure, they don't listen to me. So just from diversity and thought, I have tried to stretch my managers to don't be tempted to just make the easy hire and the person that already thinks just like you. You need to stretch yourself. We need to hire people that have expertise in gaming and know what it is like to make a game. Just like we need to hire someone who has made a piece of hardware. Because if we are not diversifying our team and our thoughts, then we produce the same results we did a year ago. And my philosophy is if you're not growing, you're shrinking and dying. Like it's sort of like the dark side of the force and the light side of the force. Like there's no. Anyway, I like us to grow and continually challenge ourselves, and that's how we maximize our usefulness to Microsoft. So there you go.
So
I got two. So Will, I got 2 things. I thought of a specific thing. Thanks to Jeff for kind of jogging my memory there. One thing, and it's 2 answers to the question. One thing, teams all over Microsoft have started these culture clubs, and they're voluntary, right? And so folks kind of get together and talk about what they want the desired culture of the team to be. And of course, we've got a good template at the top from our, Microsoft culture and core values, right? And it's been awesome, especially since the pandemic has hit. Like people are just leaning in and being really sensitive around like family time and like how that now the pandemic is forcing or causing some encroachment upon your used to be me time, right? Because everybody's sending emails all over the time zones and people are working from different places and, your commute is from your bedroom to like, 20 paces to your, kitchen table or whatever, right? So it's been refreshing to see the culture clubs pop up and to really talk about real issues on the team and how we could set some things in place to solve those issues. And then the thing that Jeff said that jogged my memory, there's a woman I mentor in the Xbox group, and she's an African American woman, which and she's been in that group. I want to say close to 10 years now. When she first joined that organization, it looked very much like the game conferences, like 99.99999% white male, right? Because that's kind of what the industry looked like. And she came in with a commerce background. And initially, I don't think she did that well on the first interview loop, right? And she kind of came in because she had this experience, and then they hired her. It's like, hey, we might need you. Turns out, early on in the days, for those of you who've been Xbox fans, thank you as well, for quite some time, we sucked at billing, right? Because we were hiring people who knew how to create games and they didn't understand commerce platforms, right? So that diversity in thought has helped us think about like, all right, cool. Don't hire people just like you, because then you're going to get what you already have, more of it, right? You need to hire people who look differently from you, who's got different backgrounds from you, different experiences from you. So that helps us and helps our customers as well.
Excellent. So I know we're pretty much out of time for our event. So one thing I wanted to make sure to do, and thank you to our panelists for all those great answers. But one thing I wanted to make sure to do is talk about next steps, right? So this is not only a opportunity to learn more about Microsoft with this event, but the intention is that after this event, that Microsoft will have some conversations with you that lead to, a phone screen, and then a potential interview, because there's going to be people on the Azure Edge and Platform team that are preparing to do rounds of interviews. So if you'd like to interview with the Microsoft team, make sure that you have your latest, that I have your latest resume, or HBCU Connect has your latest resume. So I'm going to put on the screen real fast the URL that you can go to. It's hbcuconnect.com/Microsoft/edge-platform. That will take you to our event registration form, or you can just email it back to me from our invite communications. You can just reply back with your latest resume. Then I'm going to share that resume with Jesse and his team. So Jesse, I don't know if you had anything to add as far as process and next steps.
Yeah, the most important thing is to make sure that folks send their resumes in to you. There'll be a resume review with the business as early as tomorrow afternoon. So you definitely want to make sure you get your resumes in by tonight so that Will can send them over to us after the event. And then if you're chosen, you'll be contacted for a technical phone screen or online technical screen that will happen within the next couple of weeks. And then after that, it'll be a virtual final round interview. So it's going to be a fairly quick process, but the most important part is to make sure that you get your resume in.
Excellent. So thanks for that, Jesse. And like I said, folks, if you want to email me back your resume, or if you want to go to the URL on the screen, you can drop your resume there. And so I want to thank all of the attendees, of course, all the candidates for coming to this event, because without you all coming to this event, we cannot do these events. So I want to thank you for your time. And then also I want to thank the Microsoft team as well for sharing your time. I know everyone is busy, probably working on a million different things and projects and important things. So I want to thank all of our panelists for sharing your time. And usually what I like to do is give our last word to our keynote speakers. So Randall and Lou, if you have any words of encouragement for our candidates.
Lou, you want to go first, or you want me to go first? I think you're pointing at me.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you. I know that this tech industry has blown up like exponentially over the last, since I've been involved, for sure, close to 30 years. And we know that Microsoft is not the only place that, you can build a great career. So thank you for your interest in Microsoft. I posted a bunch of stuff in the chat window around like tips. There's other problem solving books out there as well that you can go and look at on Amazon or, barnesandnobles.com, et cetera. I think the key is, to remember when you're interviewing, it's a dialogue, it's a conversation between you and an interviewer, and they're looking for a few key things, right? I think the uber point that they're trying to figure out is, can I work with this person in my team? Can the rest of my team work with this person? And the skills around critical problem solving, being flexible in your approach, learning as you go, and being super methodical, I think, are key, and collaboration, of course, right? So those are things that if you showcase in the interview, even if you don't have a certain skill, like a certain language skill, right? Because I've seen a bunch of questions in the chat about that, right? Like somebody said, it might have been Chris, we can teach you that language, right? You can learn that language, right? I mean, new languages pop up all the time, right? And we're, always, learning as we go as a company as well. So thank you all, and good luck.
Thanks, Randall.
Yeah, my unmute button did eventually work. So just to piggyback off of what Randall said, I think interviewing is kind of a special skill, and it is a learnable skill. You can practice it, and it's definitely, as folks have said, it's not necessarily about the language or the specific technology. It's more about that mindset and that problem solving process. And you can practice, and there's so many resources on the internet. Google has some free books out there. There's a lot of free books where you can just get some practice questions just to warm up a little bit, work through the nerves, and then bring your best self to that interview process. So
Excellent. Thank you.
Hey, Will, I had a final thought that's real quick, because
Sure.
in the chat, a lot of people are asking, are these job postings remote? And so I just wanted to leave a final thought about how we've shifted as a company, because we didn't get to say it during the talk, is that all my positions are compatible with anywhere on the earth. You can do my roles from anywhere. And the person we work for, Douglas, who runs part of Azure Edge Platform, he has a very open mind that you don't have to move to Seattle to apply for these roles and get these roles. So I wanted to make sure people hear that. Even though the job on Microsoft.com doesn't say we allow remote work, because it might not, I think you should apply. And that it, we can, when we interview and when we talk to you, we are open to the fact that you may not want to move to Seattle, right? And so I just want to make sure people hear that, because our entire Azure Edge and Platform division doesn't always require you to relocate. So anyway, there you go.
No, I think that's huge. I think that's huge because it wasn't always like that. One of the reasons why we started doing these events was not only to go where the talent was physically, but then also to pitch Seattle, right? It was always, hey, there's African Americans in Seattle, there's Latinx candidates also in Seattle, and it's a great place to live. So, and I think
stay where you are. We
just
want you.
I think that's huge, right? So for all the candidates, I hope you got that loud and clear. Like I said, make sure I have your resume. I'm going to be sharing all the resumes that I have with Jesse and his team to share with the Azure Edge and Platform team. And I'm hoping a lot of you get to have some interviews and conversations, and hopefully get some offers out. So very excited. Want to thank everyone, and say good night. So hey, thanks everyone. Appreciate it. Take care.